Welcome, weary soul. Tonight, you're not alone in your struggle. Like Daniel in a foreign land, you may feel displaced, uncertain, facing challenges that seem impossible to overcome. But just as God was with Daniel through every trial, every sleepless night, every moment of fear, He is with you now. Tonight, you'll journey through the story of a man who faced lions, fiery furnaces, and kingdoms that sought to destroy his faith. Yet Daniel never lost sight of the God who held him. In these next hours, you'll discover that the same God who protected Daniel, who gave him wisdom, who never left his side, that same God is watching over you right now. Let your breathing slow and deepen. Feel the weight of today's burdens beginning to lift from your shoulders. Allow your body to sink into this moment of rest. You don't have to carry everything tonight. Father God, as we enter this time of rest, surround us with your presence. Remind us that we are precious to you. Help us release our fears and find peace in your unfailing love. Amen. Maybe you're feeling lost right now, like you've been taken from everything familiar, everything that made sense, and placed in a situation that feels foreign and overwhelming. Daniel knew this feeling. As a young man, he was torn from his homeland, his family, his entire way of life, and forced into a culture that opposed everything he believed. Listen to what David wrote when he felt displaced and alone. Psalm 23 1-3. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. A shepherd. Do you know what that means for you tonight? It means you have someone who is watching over you constantly. You're not wandering alone in this foreign territory of your life. Even when everything around you feels strange and uncertain, you have a good shepherd who knows exactly where you are. He's not surprised by your circumstances. He's not scrambling to took out how to help you. He's been preparing quiet waters for your soul even in the midst of your chaos. Daniel discovered this truth in Babylon. Though he was thousands of miles from home, though he was surrounded by people who worshipped false gods, though he faced pressure to abandon his faith, God was his shepherd, and God is your shepherd tonight. You lack nothing that you truly need, because the one who loves you most is providing for you, protecting you, preparing a place of rest for your weary soul. Perhaps you're feeling overwhelmed right now. The challenges before you feel like mountains too high to climb, storms too fierce to weather. Your heart is pounding, your mind is racing, and you can't see how you'll make it through. Let me share what God spoke through the psalmist when he felt this same overwhelming fear. Psalm 46 1-3. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. Even if everything falls apart, and I mean everything, you don't have to fear. Why? Because God is not just a refuge you can run to when things get bad. He is your refuge right now. He is your strength right now. He is your ever-present help, not help that might come someday, but help that is with you at this very moment. Daniel experienced this when King Nebuchadnezzar demanded that all the wise men interpret his dream or die. The mountains were falling into the sea. Death was at the door. But Daniel didn't panic because he knew his God was his refuge and strength. And that same God who gave Daniel wisdom in an impossible situation is your refuge tonight. Whatever mountains are quaking in your life, you can rest in his strength. Fear and anxiety may be gripping your heart tonight. Your mind is spinning with what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. Your chest feels tight. Your breathing shallow. The darkness feels heavy with worry and dread. Listen to these words that God spoke directly to hearts like yours. Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Do not fear, for I am with you. Not, I will be with you someday, but I am with you. Right now, in this moment, as anxiety tries to steal your peace, God is with you. He sees the fear that's keeping you awake. He knows the thoughts that won't stop racing. And He's not disappointed in you for feeling afraid. Instead, He's reaching out with His righteous right hand to hold you steady. Daniel faced this same command when he was thrown into the lion's den. Do not fear. How could he not fear? Lions were circling him, their hunger evident, their power undeniable. But Daniel had learned that God's presence was more real than any threat. The same God who shut the mouths of lions is shutting the mouth of fear that's trying to devour your peace tonight. You are being upheld by His righteous right hand. Maybe you're exhausted tonight, not just tired, but bone-deep weary. You've been carrying burdens that were never meant for your shoulders. You've been trying so hard to hold everything together, to be strong for everyone else, to solve problems that feel impossible. You're running on empty, and you don't know how much longer you can keep going. Jesus saw you coming. He knew you would feel this way, and He had these words waiting for you. Matthew 11:28-3:0. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Come to me. Not figure it out first. Not get stronger first. Not stop being so tired. Come as you are, weary, burdened, exhausted. Bring all of it to Him. Jesus isn't asking you to carry your load and His too. He's asking you to let Him carry what you've been struggling with. His yoke is easy, His burden is light, not because the situations you face aren't difficult, but because He is carrying the weight of them. Daniel learned this lesson when he was given the impossible task of interpreting Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Instead of carrying the burden alone, he went to his friends for prayer, then trusted God for the answer. The burden that could have crushed him became light because he learned to let God carry it. Tonight, you can lay down what you've been carrying and let Jesus give you rest for your soul. Your heart may be breaking tonight. Loss has torn through your life like a storm, leaving devastation in its wake. The pain is so deep you can barely breathe. You feel shattered, alone, forgotten by the world and maybe even by God. But listen to this promise, made specifically for hearts like yours. Psalm 34-18. The Lord is close to the broken-hearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Close to the broken-hearted, not distant, not disappointed, not waiting for you to heal before He'll come near. He's close right now. When your heart is breaking, when your spirit feels crushed under the weight of pain, that's when God draws even nearer. He's not afraid of your tears, your questions, your anger, your grief. He's not waiting for you to get over it or move on. He's right here with you in the breaking. Daniel experienced this closeness when he grieved over the coming judgment on Jerusalem. He fasted, he wept, he mourned for his people, and in that broken place, God sent an angel to tell him he was highly esteemed. Your brokenness doesn't make you less valuable to God. It draws His compassion closer to you. Perhaps tonight you're feeling abandoned, like everyone has left, like no one understands, like you're facing this alone. The silence feels deafening, the loneliness overwhelming. You wonder if even God has forgotten about you. But listen to this unshakable truth. Romans 8:38-9. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Nothing can separate you from God's love. Nothing. Not your failures, not your doubts, not your pain, not your circumstances, not death, not life, not the present moment that feels so dark, not the future that seems so uncertain. There is no power in heaven or on earth that can tear you away from the love that God has for you. Daniel held on to this truth even when he was the only one praying to the true God in all of Babylon. Even when the king's decree meant he could be killed for praying, he continued because he knew nothing could separate him from God's love. That same unbreakable connection exists between you and God. Tonight, you are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are held in a love that will never let you go. Let your breathing slow now. Feel the truth of these words settling into your heart. You are seen, you are known, you are loved beyond measure. Just as God walked with Daniel through every trial, He is walking with you through yours. You don't have to face tomorrow's challenges tonight. You don't have to solve everything before you sleep. You can rest now, knowing you are safe in the arms of the one who never sleeps, never leaves, and never stops loving you. Your mind won't stop tonight, will it? Thoughts are racing. What if this happens? What if that goes wrong? What if you can't handle what's coming? Your chest feels tight. Your breathing is shallow. The fear feels so real, so overwhelming, like it's consuming every rational thought you try to hold on to. Jesus knew you would feel this way. He saw these anxious nights coming, and He had words waiting for you. Matthew 6:34. Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Jesus isn't saying your worries aren't real. He sees the weight you're carrying, not just today's troubles, but tomorrow's fears, next week's uncertainties, next year's possibilities. He knows how your mind works, how it spins scenarios and creates problems that may never come to pass. But He's offering you something different tonight, permission to live in just this moment. Daniel faced this same racing mind when Nebuchadnezzar decreed that all wise men would die if the dream wasn't interpreted. Tomorrow's worry was literally a death sentence. But Daniel didn't spend the night consumed with what might happen. Instead, he focused on what he could do right now. Pray, seek God, trust in His faithfulness. Tomorrow's trouble would indeed worry about itself. But tonight, Daniel could rest in God's presence. You can make that same choice. Tonight, you don't have to. Solve tomorrow's problems. You don't have to figure out next week's challenges. You can breathe in this moment, rest in this space, trust that the God who has carried you through every day until now will be faithful when tomorrow comes. The sadness feels crushing tonight, doesn't it? Grief has wrapped around your heart like a heavy blanket, making everything feel muffled and distant. You're tired of crying, tired of hurting, tired of explaining to people that you're still not over it. The ache seems to have taken up permanent residence in your chest. Let me share what the psalmist wrote when grief felt endless. Psalm 30:5. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. Notice it says, may stay for the night, not should be gone by now or shouldn't last this long. Weeping may stay. It's okay that your tears are still here. It's okay that the sadness lingers. Grief doesn't follow a schedule or timeline that makes others comfortable. But this verse holds a promise. Morning is coming. Daniel wept when he understood the vision of what would happen to his people. He mourned for 3 weeks, refusing rich food, avoiding wine, not even using lotions. His grief was deep and prolonged, but even in his weeping, God met him. An angel touched him and said, "Do not be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard. Your tears are heard too. Your grief matters to God. You don't have to rush toward morning. You can let weeping stay for as long as it needs to. But hold on to this truth. Morning will come, not because your circumstances will necessarily change, but because God's mercies are new every morning, and His faithfulness will meet you there. You feel alone in a way that goes beyond physical solitude. It's a soul-deep loneliness that makes you feel like no one really sees you, really knows you, really understands what you're going through. You're surrounded by people maybe, but you still feel invisible, like you're on the outside looking in at a life you can't quite reach. Listen to what God said when Elijah felt this same isolation. 1 Kings 19:14. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too. God's response wasn't to argue with Elijah's feelings or minimize his loneliness. Instead, God showed up. He spoke in a gentle whisper. He provided food for the journey. He gave Elijah meaningful work to do. And then he revealed something beautiful. Yet I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal. Elijah thought he was alone, but he wasn't. There were thousands of others who shared his heart, his values, his devotion to God. He just couldn't see them from where he stood. Daniel must have felt this loneliness too, taken from his home, separated from his family, serving in a pagan court where his faith made him different. But God didn't leave him isolated. He provided friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who shared his convictions and supported him through every trial. You may not see them yet, but there are people who understand your heart. You may feel invisible, but God sees you completely. You may feel forgotten, but your name is written on His hands. The loneliness is real, but it's not the whole truth. You are known, you are seen, you are loved more deeply than you can imagine. Fear has you in its grip tonight. Not just worry or concern, but that deep, primal fear that makes your hands shake and your heart race. Maybe it's fear of losing someone you love, fear of failing at something important, fear that you're not strong enough for what you're facing. The fear feels bigger than you, more powerful than your faith. But listen to what God said to Joshua when he faced overwhelming odds. Joshua 1-9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Notice God doesn't say, don't feel afraid. He says, don't be afraid. There's a difference. You might feel afraid, but you don't have to be controlled by that fear. You don't have to let it make your decisions or steal your sleep. Why? Because the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, do you think he felt afraid? Of course he did. Lions are terrifying, hungry, powerful predators. But Daniel didn't let the fear control him. He trusted that the God who had been faithful for 70 years wouldn't abandon him now, and God sent an angel to shut the lions' mouths. Your lions might not be literal, but they feel just as dangerous. Financial problems, health concerns, relationship struggles, job insecurity. But the same God who protected Daniel in the lion's den is with you in your den of fear. You don't have to be controlled by what terrifies you. You can be strong and courageous, not because you feel brave, but because you are not alone in this fight. Everything feels out of control, doesn't it? Life is spinning faster than you can keep up with. Circumstances are changing before you can adapt, and you feel like you're constantly trying to catch up to a world that won't slow down. You used to feel capable, competent, able to handle whatever came your way. Now, you feel overwhelmed by the smallest decisions. Here's what God said when His people felt completely overwhelmed. Isaiah 43:1-2. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep you over. Notice it doesn't say if you pass through waters. It says when. God knows that overwhelming circumstances are part of life, but He also promises that when you're in over your head, when the currents feel too strong, when you feel like you're drowning, the waters will not sweep you over. Daniel faced overwhelming circumstances repeatedly. Impossible dreams to interpret, death threats for praying, political intrigue that could have destroyed him. But each time, he held on to this truth. He belonged to God, and God would not let the waters sweep him away. You belong to God too. Your name is written on his heart. These overwhelming circumstances that feel like they might destroy you, they won't sweep you over. Not because they're not difficult, but because the one who holds the waters is holding you. Your heart is breaking over someone you love. Maybe they're making choices that are destroying their life, walking away from everything you've tried to teach them, or simply suffering in ways you can't fix. You lie awake at night thinking about them, worrying about them, feeling helpless to change anything. Listen to what God said about his own broken heart over people he loves. Hosea 11-8. How can I give you up? How can I hand you over? My heart is changed within me. All my compassion is aroused. God knows what it's like to love someone who is hurting, to want to rescue someone who won't be rescued, to have a breaking heart over people who matter more than life itself. His heart breaks too. He understands the ache you feel when love isn't enough to fix everything. Daniel loved his people, but he couldn't save them from their own choices. He could only pray for them, intercede for them, and trust God with what he couldn't control. God honored his prayers and his broken heart, but Daniel had to learn to release what he couldn't change. Your love for this person is beautiful, even when it hurts, but you don't have to carry the weight of their choices or their pain alone. God loves them even more than you do, and he's working in ways you can't see. You can release them into his hands, knowing that your broken heart is held by the one whose heart breaks with yours. Let yourself feel these struggles without shame tonight. They don't make you weak or faithless. They make you human, and they connect you to countless others who have walked this same difficult path. Daniel faced every one of these challenges, and God met him in each one. The same faithful God who carried Daniel through 70 years of exile, through lions' dens and fiery furnaces, through political upheaval and personal loss, that same God is carrying you tonight. You don't have to overcome everything before you can rest. You don't have to solve every problem or conquer every fear. You can bring all of it to the one who specializes in impossible situations, and you can let him hold what you can't handle. Just as he held Daniel, he's holding you. Just as he was faithful to Daniel through every trial, he will be faithful to you. You can rest now, knowing you are safe in his care. You're wondering if things will ever get better, aren't you? If this pain will ever ease, if these circumstances will ever change, if there's any hope for a future that looks different from the struggle you're living now. The days feel endless, and you can't see past the darkness to imagine that morning might actually come. Listen to this promise God made, not to someone else, but to you. Jeremiah 29-11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. I know the plans I have for you. Not vague plans, not maybe plans, plans. Specific, intentional, carefully designed plans that take into account everything you're facing right now. God spoke these words to his people when they were in exile, when they couldn't see how their story would end, when 70 years in a foreign land seemed like a lifetime of pain. But notice what God says: plans to prosper you and not to harm you. This doesn't mean your life will be easy or pain-free. Daniel lived this promise for 70 years in Babylon, and he faced lions, political intrigue, and challenges that could have destroyed him. But, through it all, God's plans were unfolding, plans that used even the difficult circumstances to shape Daniel into exactly who he needed to be. Your current struggles are not God's plan to harm you. They may be part of his plan to prosper you, not necessarily with wealth or comfort, but with character, with faith, with a story of redemption that only you can tell. God sees the end from the beginning, and his plans for your future are good. Hope is not just wishful thinking, it's confidence in God's faithfulness to complete what he started in your life. Life feels chaotic right now, doesn't it? Like everything is falling apart, like nothing makes sense, like the pieces of your world have been thrown into the air and you don't know where they'll land. You're looking for meaning, for purpose, for some reason to believe that all this pain serves a greater good. Here's what God promises about the chaos. Romans 8:28. "Oh, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." In all things. Not just the good things, not just the things that make sense, but all things. Even the devastating things, even the unfair things, even the things that seem to have no purpose whatsoever. God is working in all of it for your good. This doesn't mean everything that happens is good. Some things are tragic, evil, heartbreaking, but it means God can take even the worst circumstances and weave them into something beautiful. He can use your pain to help others, your struggles to build strength, your questions to deepen your faith. Daniel lived this promise. Being taken into exile wasn't good. It was traumatic, devastating, life-altering in the worst way. But God worked even that terrible circumstance for Daniel's good and for the good of countless others. Through his exile, Daniel became an influence for the true God in the most powerful empire on earth. Through his struggles, he learned to trust God in ways he never could have if life had been easy. Your chaos isn't random. Your pain isn't pointless. God is working in all of it, weaving a story of redemption that you may not see clearly now but will recognize someday as a masterpiece of grace. You don't have to understand it all tonight. You just need to trust that the one who sees the whole tapestry is working every thread for your good. You feel like you're drowning, don't you? The circumstances of your life feel like deep waters that are over your head, currents too strong for you to swim against. You're struggling just to keep breathing, just to survive another day. The waves keep coming, and you're not sure how much longer you can stay afloat. Listen to this promise for when you feel like you're going under. Isaiah 43:2. "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep you over. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." Notice it says, when you pass through waters, not if. God knows that overwhelming circumstances are part of life in a broken world, but he promises that when you're in deep waters, when you feel like you're drowning, the rivers will not sweep you over. Not because the waters aren't real or deep or dangerous, but because he is with you in them. Daniel's friends experienced this promise literally when they were thrown into the fiery furnace. The flames were real, so hot they killed the guards who threw them in. But when the king looked into the fire, he saw 4 men walking around, unbound and unharmed. The 4th figure looked like a son of the gods. God didn't keep them out of the fire. He walked through it with them. You may be in the fire right now, or feeling like you're drowning in circumstances beyond your control, but you are not alone in the flames. The same God who walked with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is walking with you. The same God who promised that rivers would not sweep away. His people is keeping you afloat. You may feel like you're barely surviving, but you are surviving. And that's not just your strength. That's God's promise being fulfilled in your life. This pain you're carrying feels unbearable some days, doesn't it? Heavy beyond words, crushing in its intensity. You wonder how other people seem to handle difficulties with such grace while you feel like you're falling apart. You question whether you're weak, whether your faith is insufficient, whether you're failing at this whole life thing. But listen to what God says about your pain. 2 Corinthians 4:17. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Light and momentary might sound insulting when your troubles feel anything but light, momentary. But Paul wrote these words from prison after being beaten, shipwrecked, rejected, and persecuted for years. He knew real suffering, but he also knew this truth. Present troubles, no matter how intense, are temporary when viewed from the perspective of eternity. Your pain is achieving something. It's not meaningless suffering. It's producing something beautiful, an eternal glory that will far outweigh the temporary nature of what you're enduring now. That doesn't minimize your current pain, but it gives it purpose, meaning, hope. Daniel experienced pain that seemed anything but light and momentary. 70 years in exile, watching his people suffer the consequences of their choices, facing death multiple times for his faith. But through it all, God was achieving something beautiful, a testimony of faithfulness that has inspired believers for thousands of years. Your pain is not wasted. God is using it to produce something eternal in you and through you. You don't have to understand it all now, and you don't have to minimize how difficult it is, but you can trust that the one who sees the eternal picture is working through your temporary troubles to create something glorious. You feel like you're failing, don't you? Like you're not living up to who you're supposed to be, like you're falling short of expectations, yours, others, maybe even God's. You look at your life and see all the ways you've messed up, all the progress you haven't made, all the growth that seems to have stalled. But here's what God promises about his work in you. Philippians 1-6, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. Not might carry it on, or could. Carry it on if you cooperate enough. Will carry it on. God doesn't start projects he can't finish. He doesn't begin transformations he won't complete. What he started in you, he will finish. You may feel like you're not growing fast enough, not changing quickly enough, not becoming who you're supposed to be soon enough. But God isn't worried about your timeline. He's working on his timeline, and his timeline is perfect. Every setback, every struggle, every day when you feel like you're sliding backward, it's all part of the process of completion. Daniel probably felt this way many times. 70 years in exile with no visible progress toward returning home. Decades of serving pagan kings while longing for God's kingdom. Times when his faith was tested and he wondered if he was measuring up. But God was faithful to complete the work he began in Daniel, using every year, every trial, every test to shape him into exactly who he needed to be. God is being just as faithful with you. The work he began in you when you first believed, or maybe even before that, is still ongoing. Your struggles don't mean he's given up on you. Your slow progress doesn't mean he's losing patience with you. He who began this good work will complete it, and his definition of completion is perfect. You're in a season that feels like it will never end, aren't you? Darkness has settled over your life like a heavy blanket, and you can't remember what light feels like. Joy seems like a foreign concept, peace like something that belongs to other people. You're just trying to survive until morning, hoping that somehow dawn will eventually come. Here's what God promises about your dark season. Psalm 30-5. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. Notice it doesn't say weeping will be gone quickly or that you shouldn't be feeling what you're feeling. Weeping may stay for the night. It's okay to be in this dark season. It's okay to grieve, to mourn, to feel the full weight of what you're going through. Night seasons are real, and they serve a purpose in God's plan for your life. But morning is coming, not because your circumstances will necessarily change overnight, but because God's mercies are new every morning, and his faithfulness extends to every sunrise. The darkness you're in now is not your final destination. It's a passage you're walking through. Daniel lived through night seasons. When he received visions of future suffering for his people, he mourned for 3 weeks. When he interpreted dreams of coming judgment, his heart was heavy. But even in the darkest revelations, God's light was present, providing hope, promising redemption, guaranteeing that morning would come. Your night season has an expiration date. The weeping that feels like it will last forever is temporary. Joy isn't gone, it's waiting for morning. And morning always comes, because that's who God is. He brings light into darkness, hope into despair, joy into mourning. Hold on, dawn is coming. You're exhausted from trying so hard, aren't you? From striving and pushing and working to make things happen, to fix what's broken, to become who you think you should be. Your soul is weary from the effort, and you're running on empty. You need strength, but you don't know where to find it. Listen to this beautiful promise for the weary. Isaiah 40-31. To those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Not those who work harder, or those who try more, or those who figure it out. Those who hope. Those who place their confidence not in their own efforts, but in God's faithfulness. Those who wait for Him to provide what they need. This renewal of strength isn't just about feeling more energetic. It's about finding the ability to soar above your circumstances like an eagle, to run toward your purpose without growing weary, to walk through each day without fainting under the weight of it all. Daniel discovered this truth during his years in Babylon. He didn't try to fight his way out of exile or force his way back home. Instead, he served faithfully where God had placed him, trusted in God's timing, and found strength to soar above his circumstances. When others were consumed with despair, Daniel remained strong because his hope was in the Lord. You don't have to keep striving so hard. You don't have to generate strength from your own reserves. When you place your hope in the Lord, when you wait on Him instead of rushing ahead in your own power, He will renew your strength. You will find yourself able to soar above what once overwhelmed you, to run toward your calling without burning out, to walk through each day with His strength sustaining you. You need fresh mercy tonight, don't you? Yesterday's faith feels stale. Last week's encouragement has faded, and you need something new from God, new hope, new strength, new assurance that He's still with you. Your spiritual well feels dry, and you're thirsting for something real and fresh from heaven. Here's the most beautiful promise about God's daily faithfulness. Lamentations 3:22, 2, 3. Because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. New every morning. Not recycled, not left over from yesterday. New, fresh, specifically designed for today's challenges, today's struggles, today's needs. God doesn't give you yesterday's manna for today's hunger. Place why. He provides exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. This promise was written during one of the darkest times in Israel's history, when Jerusalem was destroyed and the people were in despair. But even in that devastation, the writer could declare that God's compassions never fail, that His mercies are new every morning. Daniel experienced this fresh mercy for 70 years. Every morning in exile was an opportunity to receive new compassion from God, new strength for the day's challenges, new grace for whatever would come. God didn't run out of patience with Daniel's questions, didn't grow tired of his need for guidance, didn't become stingy with his provision. Tomorrow morning, Jeezy, and this is a promise you can count on, when you wake up, there will be fresh mercy waiting for you. New compassion for your struggles, new strength for your challenges, new grace for your failures, new hope for your future. God's love for you doesn't diminish overnight. His faithfulness doesn't fade with the darkness. Great is His faithfulness, and His mercy is new every single morning. These are not just beautiful words written thousands of years ago. These are living promises, active in your life right now, true for your situation tonight. The same God who kept His promises to Daniel is keeping His promises to you. The same faithfulness that carried God's people through exile is carrying you through your current circumstances. You can rest tonight knowing that every one of these promises has your name on it, and the God who makes them never fails to keep His word. I know it's hard to have faith right now. When you're in this much pain, when nothing makes sense, when prayers feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling, believing feels impossible, doesn't it? You wonder if God is really there, if He really cares, if any of this spiritual stuff is actually real or just wishful thinking. But listen to what happened when someone else struggled with belief. Mark 9:24, Ifelder. Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." Do you hear that? Belief and unbelief in the same breath. Faith and doubt existing side by side. And Jesus didn't rebuke him. Jesus didn't say, "Come back when you figure it out," or "Your faith isn't strong enough." Jesus honored that honest cry and healed the boy. You can come to God with your doubts. You can say, "I want to believe, but I'm struggling. Help me overcome my unbelief." Doubt doesn't disqualify you from God's love. It makes you human. Even Daniel, who was faithful for 70 years, had moments when he struggled to understand God's ways. When he received visions of future, suffering, he was troubled, confused, even physically sick from trying to process what God was showing him. Your questions don't threaten God. Your doubts don't disappoint Him. He's big enough to handle your struggles with faith, patient enough to meet you where you are, loving enough to help you overcome your unbelief, one small step at a time. You need to believe in something you can't see, don't you? The promises feel distant. The hope seems abstract. The future God has planned remains invisible. Your circumstances look one way, but faith is asking you to believe that reality is something completely different. It feels like you're being asked to trust in fairy tales when what you need is something solid and real. But here's what faith actually is. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Faith isn't pretending something is true when you know it's not. Faith is having confidence that what God has promised is more real than what you can see with your eyes. It's having assurance that the invisible kingdom of God is more solid than the visible circumstances that seem so overwhelming. Daniel exercised this kind of faith when he prayed toward Jerusalem every day. Even though the temple was destroyed and the city was in ruins, he couldn't see the restoration God had promised, but his faith gave him confidence that it was coming. He couldn't see God's plan unfolding, but he had assurance that the invisible purposes of God were more reliable than the visible exile he was living. What you're hoping for, healing, restoration, provision, peace, purpose, it's not just wishful thinking. If it aligns with God's heart and His promises, then it's more real than your current circumstances. Faith is learning to see with spiritual eyes, to trust that what God has spoken is true even when what you can see suggests otherwise. Your faith feels so shaky right now, doesn't it? Like it's hanging by a thread, ready to snap under the weight of what you're going through. You wonder if what little belief you have is enough, if God can work with faith that feels so small and fragile. But listen to what Jesus said about small faith. Romans 10:17. Consequently, faith comes from hearing the message, and the message is heard through the word about Christ. Faith comes from hearing, not from working up belief in yourself, not from trying harder to feel confident, but from hearing the truth about who God is and what He's done. Every time you hear about God's faithfulness, every time you listen to His promises, Every time you remember what Christ accomplished, they are free. Your faith grows a little stronger. Daniel's faith grew through hearing God's word. When the angel came to him and said, "You are highly esteemed," Daniel's faith was strengthened. When God revealed his plans through dreams and visions, Daniel's confidence in God's sovereignty increased. Each word from God built on the previous ones, creating a foundation of faith that could withstand any storm. Your faith doesn't have to feel strong to be effective. It just needs to be connected to the right source. As you hear God's word tonight, as you remember his faithfulness, as you focus on his character instead of your circumstances, your faith is being strengthened, even if you can't feel it happening. You want to see some evidence, don't you? Some tangible proof that God is working, that your prayers are being heard, that your faith isn't misplaced. You feel like you're walking in the dark, and you need something concrete to hold on to, something visible to confirm that you're not just believing in nothing. Here's what God says about walking by faith. 2 Corinthians 5-7. For we live by faith, not by sight. This doesn't mean God expects you to ignore reality or pretend everything is fine when it's not. It means that your spiritual sight, your ability to see God's purposes, his presence, his provision, is more reliable than your physical sight. What you can see with your eyes is temporary and partial. What you see with faith is eternal and complete. Daniel lived by faith, not by sight, for 70 years. He couldn't see how God would fulfill his promises to restore Israel. He couldn't see how his own influence in Babylon would serve God's purposes. But he lived as if what God had promised was already accomplished, because faith sees the end from the beginning. You may not see evidence of God's work in your circumstances right now, but that doesn't mean he's not working. Some of God's greatest miracles happen invisibly, in hearts and minds and spiritual realms that can't be measured or photographed. Your faith is growing, your character is being refined, your story is being written, even if you can't see it yet. Your faith feels so inadequate compared to what you're facing, doesn't it? The mountain in front of you looks so massive, and your faith feels like a tiny pebble. You read about heroes of faith in the Bible, and wonder if you'll ever have that kind of strong, unwavering trust in God. But Jesus had something surprising to say about small faith. Matthew 17:20. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, "Move from here to there," and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. Faith as small as a mustard seed, not faith as large as a mountain. The size of your faith isn't what matters, it's the size of your God. A tiny mustard seed can become a great tree not because the seed is powerful, but because it's connected to the life-giving power of God. Daniel didn't start with mountain-moving faith. He started as a teenager torn from his home, probably scared and confused about God's plans. But his small faith was connected to a great God, and over time, that connection grew stronger. By the end of his life, he could stand before kings, interpret dreams, and face lions, not because his faith was perfect, but because his small faith was rooted in a faithful God. Your faith doesn't have to feel big or impressive. It just has to be real, connected to the right source. The mustard seed faith you have tonight is enough to move the mountains in your life, because the God who receives your faith specializes in impossible things. You wonder if others have struggled like you're struggling, don't you? If the great heroes of faith ever had doubts, ever felt discouraged, ever questioned whether God was really with them, you feel alone in your struggles, like everyone else has figured out this faith thing while you're still wrestling with basic questions. Look at what Hebrews says about the heroes of faith. Hebrews 11:13. KR, all these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. They didn't receive the things promised. They only pot them from a distance. Even the greatest heroes of faith lived with unfulfilled promises, unanswered questions, incomplete understanding. Abraham never saw all his descendants. Moses never entered the promised land. David never saw the eternal kingdom he was promised. Daniel spent 70 years in exile, never returning to the Jerusalem he loved. He saw visions of God's ultimate plan, but he died before any of it was fulfilled. He lived his entire life as a foreigner in a strange land, holding on to promises he would never see completed in his lifetime. You're not failing at faith just because you don't have all the answers. You're not weak just because you're still waiting for promises to be fulfilled. You're not alone in your struggles. You're part of a long line of faithful people who learned to trust God even when they couldn't see the whole picture. You're waiting for God to keep promises that seem delayed, aren't you? Maybe even forgotten. You've been believing for something for so long that you wonder if you misunderstood, if you're holding on to false hope, if God has changed his mind about what he promised you. But listen to what happened with Abraham. Romans 4:22-1. Yet he did not waver through unbelief regarding the promise of God, but was strengthened in his faith and gave glory to God, being fully persuaded that God had power to do what he had promised. Abraham waited 25 years for the son God promised him. 25 years of hoping, believing, watching Sarah age beyond childbearing years, wondering if he had heard God correctly. But the delay didn't mean God had forgotten. It meant God's timing was different from Abraham's expectations. Daniel waited 70 years for the restoration of Jerusalem. 70 years of praying, believing, serving faithfully in exile, while holding on to God's promise that his people would return home. Daniel himself never saw the fulfillment, but his faith that God would keep his word never wavered. God's delays are not God's denials. His timing is different from yours, but his faithfulness is constant. What he promised you may not come when you expect it, or in the way you imagine it, but if it's truly from God, it will come. Your waiting isn't wasted. It's building character, deepening faith, preparing you for what's coming. You feel like God is far away, don't you? Like he's silent, absent, maybe even angry with you. Prayer feels pointless. Worship feels empty, and you wonder if you've somehow lost connection with the God you used to feel close to. But listen to what David wrote during his own dark night of the soul. Psalm 13:1-5. How long, Lord? Will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. David felt abandoned by God. He wrestled with doubts, sorrow, and the feeling that God had forgotten him. But notice what he did with those feelings. He brought them directly to God. He didn't pretend to feel close when he felt distant. He was honest about his struggle while still choosing to trust in God's unfailing love. Daniel experienced times when God seemed silent. For years at a time, there were no dreams to interpret, no visions to understand, no dramatic interventions, just daily faithfulness in a foreign land, serving pagan kings while believing in the invisible God of Israel. But God's silence didn't mean God's absence. It meant God was working in ways Daniel couldn't see. Feeling distant from God doesn't mean you are distant from God. Your emotions are not a reliable indicator of spiritual reality. Even when you can't feel his presence, even when prayer feels difficult, even when worship feels empty, God's love for you is unfailing. His commitment to you is unshakable, and his work in your life continues. Your faith doesn't have to be perfect to be precious to God. It doesn't have to be strong to be sufficient. It just has to be real, honest, and connected to the one who is faithful even when your faith falters. Like Daniel, you can choose to believe in God's goodness, even when you don't understand his ways. Like Abraham, you can be fully persuaded that God has power to do what he has promised, even when the timing doesn't match your expectations. Let your faith be small tonight if that's all you have. Let it be shaky, uncertain, full of questions. Bring it all to the God who honors honest struggles and meets you exactly where you are. Your tiny mustard seed faith is enough to move mountains, because it's not about the size of your faith, it's about the size of your God. Your mind has been racing all day, hasn't it? Even now, trying to rest, thoughts keep coming like waves against the shore of your consciousness. Worries about tomorrow, replays of today, endless loops of what if and why me that just won't quiet down. Your body is tired, but your mind won't let you rest. Jesus spoke about this kind of exhaustion. Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Come as you are, weary, burdened, with all those thoughts still racing. Jesus isn't asking you to quiet your mind first, to solve your problems first, to get your life together first. He's asking you to come with all of it and let him give you rest. Rest for your souls. Not just sleep for your body, but deep spiritual rest that touches the places where anxiety lives, where worry has made a home, where fear keeps you awake. This isn't rest you have to earn or achieve. It's rest he gives to those who come to him. Daniel knew this kind of rest. In a foreign land, serving pagan kings, facing impossible situations, yet he could sleep peacefully because he had learned to cast his burdens on the Lord. Even on the night he was thrown into the lion's den, Daniel rested in God's care. The lions were real, the danger was immediate, but Daniel's soul was at rest because his trust was in the God who never sleeps. Let your breathing slow now. Feel the weight of your body sinking into rest. You can release those racing thoughts, just for these hours. You can let Jesus carry what you've been trying to hold, the anxiety in your chest, that tight feeling that makes it hard to breathe deeply. 12. It doesn't have to control your night. Listen to what Paul wrote when he understood the secret of peace. Philippians 4:6-7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Do not be anxious about anything. That includes the thing that's keeping you awake tonight, that worry that feels so justified, so necessary, so impossible to let go. You can present it to God, not with perfect faith, not with complete understanding, but with honest need. The peace that comes isn't peace that makes sense to your logical mind. It's peace that transcends understanding, peace that can exist even when circumstances don't change, peace that guards your heart like a soldier, standing watch over your emotions while you rest. Daniel experienced this supernatural peace when King Darius was forced to throw him to the lions. The law couldn't be changed, the sentence couldn't be reversed, death seemed inevitable. But Daniel's heart was guarded by God's peace. He could rest even in the face of lions because his mind was stayed on the God who is faithful. Take a deep breath now, and as you exhale, release that anxiety to the one who specializes in impossible situations. Let his peace stand guard over your heart. Tonight, your heart feels troubled, doesn't it? Heavy with concerns that feel too big to bear, uncertainty about the future, sadness about things you cannot change. The weight in your chest seems to press down on your very soul, making it difficult to imagine rest or peace. But Jesus knew you would feel this way. He spoke these words specifically for troubled hearts like yours. John 14:27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. My peace I give you. Not the world's peace that depends on circumstances being just right, problems being solved, fears being eliminated. Jesus' peace, the peace that sustained him through betrayal, suffering, even death. That peace is yours tonight. This is the peace that allowed Jesus to sleep in a boat during a storm while his disciples panicked. This is the peace that enabled him to remain calm when facing the cross. This is the peace that transcends human understanding because it comes from divine love. Daniel lived in this peace for 70 years. Through political upheaval, through threats to his life, through watching his people suffer in exile, the troubled world around him could not steal the peace that came from knowing God was in control. God was faithful. God's plans would prevail. You don't have to let your heart be troubled tonight. You can receive the peace that Jesus gives. Let it settle into the deep places of your soul where worry has been living. Sleep feels so elusive when you don't feel safe, doesn't it? The darkness seems full of threats, real or imagined. Your mind is hypervigilant, scanning for dangers, unable to relax into the vulnerability that sleep requires. You long for rest, but you can't seem to let your guard down. Listen to this beautiful promise about safety. Psalm 4-8. In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. You alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Not your vigilance, not your worry, not your ability to anticipate every possible problem. The Lord alone is your safety, and He doesn't sleep. He doesn't need you to stay awake to help Him watch over your life. David wrote these words when enemies surrounded him, when his safety was genuinely threatened. But he had learned something profound. True safety doesn't come from the absence of danger, but from the presence of God. You can sleep in peace, because the one who loves you most is watching over you. Daniel slept peacefully in the lion's den. Think about that. Surrounded by hungry predators, facing almost certain death, yet somehow able to rest because he knew God was his ultimate safety. The lions couldn't touch him because he dwelt in the safety that comes from the Lord alone. You can lay down your defenses now. You can stop scanning for threats. The Lord is making you dwell in safety tonight, even if you can't see it, even if you can't feel to it. His protection surrounds you. Your thoughts just won't stop, will they? They keep spinning, cycling through the same worries, the same problems, the same scenarios, over and over again. You've tried counting sheep, tried meditation techniques, tried everything you know to quiet your mind, but still the thoughts keep coming. God has something to say about those restless thoughts. Isaiah 26-3. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast on you, because they trust in you. Perfect peace. Not partial peace, not temporary peace, but perfect peace for minds that are steadfast on God. This doesn't mean you have to force yourself to think about God every second. It means you can anchor your thoughts to His character, His faithfulness, His love. When thoughts of worry come, you can redirect them to thoughts of God's provision. When thoughts of fear arise, you can remember God's protection. When thoughts of uncertainty flood in, you can focus on God's sovereignty. Your mind can learn a new pattern, a pattern of peace. Daniel practiced this kind of steadfast focus. 3 times a day, he turned his thoughts toward God in prayer, not because his circumstances were perfect, but because his peace depended on keeping his mind anchored to the one who never changes, never fails, never abandons his people. Let your mind settle now on the goodness of God, His faithfulness that never wavers, His love that never ends. Perfect peace is yours as your thoughts rest in Him. You've been striving so hard, haven't you? Trying to make things happen, trying to fix what's broken, trying to control outcomes that aren't yours to control. Your soul is exhausted from the effort. and you need permission to stop trying so hard to rest from your labors. Listen to this invitation to stop striving. Psalm 127:2. In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves. All that rising early and staying up late, all that toiling and striving and working so hard, it's in vain if it's not rooted in trust that God provides for those he loves. Sleep, rest, is a gift from God to those who learn to trust him with the things they cannot control. You don't have to solve everything before you sleep. You don't have to fix every problem, anticipate every challenge, prepare for every possibility. God grants sleep to those he loves, and you are deeply, completely, eternally loved. Daniel learned to rest from his striving. He served faithfully, worked diligently, but he didn't carry the weight of outcomes. He trusted that God was working through his service, but the results belonged to God. This allowed him to rest peacefully, even in the most stressful circumstances. You can lay down your striving. Now, release your tight grip on things you cannot control. Sleep is God's gift to you tonight because you are his beloved. The imagery is so beautiful in these ancient words. Green pastures, quiet waters, paths of righteousness. Let your mind rest in this peaceful scene as we journey together towards sleep. Psalm 23:2-3. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He makes you lie down, not because he's forcing you, but because he knows you need rest more than you need to keep working, keep worrying, keep trying to manage everything yourself. Green pastures. Imagine the soft grass beneath you, the peace of a place where all your needs are met. Quiet waters. Not the rushing, turbulent waters of your anxious thoughts, but still, peaceful waters that reflect the sky. Waters beside which you can rest without fear. Waters that refresh rather than threaten. Daniel found these quiet waters even in Babylon. Even in a foreign land, even serving in a pagan court, even facing challenges that could have destroyed him, God led him beside quiet waters and refreshed his soul. The external circumstances didn't determine his internal peace. Let your soul be refreshed now by these quiet waters. Feel yourself lying down in green pastures where you lack nothing you need. Rest in the care of the Good Shepherd who knows exactly what your soul requires. Even while you sleep, you are not alone. Even in the darkness, you are watched over. Even in your most vulnerable state, you are protected by the one who never slumbers. Psalm 121:3-4, 2-3-4. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. He doesn't sleep so that you can sleep. He stays awake so that you can rest. While your consciousness fades into peaceful slumber, his consciousness remains perfectly alert, perfectly aware, perfectly protective of your life and soul. Your foot will not slip, not into danger, not into despair, not into anything that can ultimately harm you. The watcher keeps watch, and his vigil never wavers. You can release control because someone infinitely more capable has never released his loving attention from you. Daniel trusted this watchful care even in the lion's den. He could close his eyes surrounded by predators because he knew the watcher was awake. The same God who watched over Israel was watching over him, and that was enough, more than enough. Close your eyes now, knowing you are watched over with perfect love. The one who never sleeps is keeping vigil while you rest. You are safe in his care. In the quietness of this moment, let these gentle words settle over your heart like a warm blanket. Zephaniah 3:17, NDZ. The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In his love he will no longer rebuke you. but will rejoice over you with singing. He takes great delight in you, not in what you accomplish, not in how well you perform, but in you, simply because you are his beloved. He rejoices over you with singing. Imagine that. The creator of the universe singing over you as you rest. Daniel was called highly esteemed by God, not because he never made mistakes, not because he had perfect faith, but because God delighted in him. The same delight God had for Daniel, he has for you. You are precious to him, treasured by him, sung over by him. Let the song of his love lull you to sleep. Rest in the delight he has in you. You are his beloved, and he is singing over you. Tomorrow will bring new mercies, fresh grace, renewed strength. But tonight is for rest. Tonight is for releasing everything into the hands of the one who loves you most. Lamentations 3:22-3. Because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning, great is your faithfulness. New every morning, tomorrow's challenges will be met with tomorrow's grace. Tonight, you can rest, knowing that everything you need for tomorrow is already prepared, already waiting, already provided by the one whose faithfulness never wavers. Daniel experienced this faithfulness for over 70 years. Every morning brought new mercy. Every challenge brought new grace. Every trial brought new evidence of God's unfailing love. And the same faithfulness that carried Daniel will carry you. Rest now in this faithful love. Let your breathing become slower, deeper, more peaceful. You are held. You are loved. You are safe in the arms of the one who never lets go. The same God who shut the mouths of lions is quieting every voice that would disturb your peace. The same God who walked through fire with his people is surrounding you with his presence. The same God who was faithful to Daniel for a lifetime will be faithful to you through this night and into tomorrow. Sleep now, beloved. Sleep in the peace that passes understanding. Sleep in the love that never fails. Sleep knowing that you are treasured, watched over, sung over by the God who delights in you. Rest. Just rest. You can let go now. Let go and rest. Rest.